You can never have enough criminals and terrorists. This is certainly the modus operandi for Canada, who set out to recruit hardened criminals from foreign nations. I'm going to play you an audio clip.
Okay, well, we are going to listen to this part of the phone call. The sound quality, it's a bit compromised at times because this is a phone line from Somalia. And I should warn our listeners that it is quite specific. It refers to torture. It may be disturbing to some people. Here is that tape.
Amanda. Amanda.
Mommy.
Amanda.
Okay.
Amanda. Amanda.
Okay, things have changed here. Mom, you need to pay the money now. You need to pay the $1 million now because they've started to torture me.
Amanda, listen.
That was the ransom call Ali Omar Adder coordinated. Ali Adder took part in the kidnapping of 2 complete idiots who traveled to Somalia to report on the lawless state. After a 1.5 year long captivity, which apparently included torture, the pair have been repatriated. But they weren't alone. From the Ottawa Citizen, a timeline, how an alleged kidnapper was lured from Somalia to Canada. In June 2015, Somali national Ali Omar Adder was arrested in Ottawa at the end of a remarkable 5-year undercover operation designed to lure him to Canada. I just want you to keep in mind through the rest of this story, he was arrested in June 2015. Now I'm going to summarize the story for you. Ali Adder contacted Amanda Lindhout's mother, seeking to sell some letters she had written during her captivity. RCMP bullshitted him with a story about a book deal that he could become a millionaire on, and invited him to Canada. After they instructed him to contact the UN, and the UN told him that he does not meet the qualifications for refugee status, the RCMP officer faked a heart attack to bide some time, to solve the legal and logistical issues, and to put the pieces in place to bring Adder to Canada. And as we see in this global news article, that nearly backfired on them. Ali Omar Adder says he lied to undercover agents when he boasted getting $10,000 for his role as a negotiator in the kidnapping. On the second day of testimony, the man accused of helping a Somali terror group continued to say he was forced against his will to participate in the kidnapping. Adder is charged for his alleged role as a negotiator and translator. He is accused of making the calls to the families of Canadian journalist Amanda Lindhout and Australian photographer Nigel Brennan, and demanding ransoms. Adder was arrested in June of 2015 in Ottawa, lured to Canada on a promise of a publishing deal. In an elaborate sting operation, RCMP agents posed as literary agents and book publishers, promising Adder a book deal. During meetings in Mauritius and Ottawa, Adder told undercover officers that he was paid $10,000 for his role in the kidnapping. Tuesday, he told the court it was a lie meant to impress the so-called publishers. He claims that he tried to tell them the truth, but that the agents weren't interested. Crown Prosecutor Croft Michelson pressed him, suggesting the story of being kidnapped himself and escaping would have been more impressive than being a simple translator. Wouldn't it have made more sense, when you met with him, to tell him that you had been taken captive, rather than you had been acting as a negotiator for the hostage takers? Demanded Michelson. I tried, but if a person doesn't want to listen, I can't control the person. Therefore, I focused on telling him what he liked, said Adder. Adder worried that if he didn't tell the agent what he wanted to hear, the book deal could be in jeopardy. Now, entrapment, which this could certainly be construed as, is a slippery slope. There's certainly a motive that the RCMP has given him to make a lie. Cases are often lost this way. Fortunately, they did win this one. So Ali Omar Adder was sentenced to 15 years. And according to this CBC article, he gets credit for time served. In Canada, one receives double or triple time served in pretrial jail time. Justice Smith said Monday that nothing short of a near maximum sentence would be appropriate for the heinous crimes Adder committed. While not party to the physical and mental abuse inflicted on Lindhout, Smith said Adder was motivated by greed and did nothing to stop the Islamic terrorists who abused Lindhout. Adder was given credit for the time he spent in pre-trial custody, knocking almost 6 years off his sentence. The 40-year-old Somalian national was found guilty on one charge of hostage-taking in December. Because she was malnourished for so long, her digestive system is compromised, she said. Her adrenal glands required 2 years of therapy to fix. Her teeth, she said, were left a broken mess after her release. Lindhout said that, despite the trauma of her experience, she has found it in her heart to forgive Adder for his role in the kidnapping. Adder said that he is sorry for his actions. Aww. Now, I didn't know this, which is why I looked these things up. It's kind of scary. On imprisonment for 2 years or more, accused eligible for parole after serving 1/3 of the sentence imposed, unless court orders that parole may not be sought until after the accused has served the lesser of 1/2 of the sentence imposed, or 10 years. Maximum 10 years, that is. So therefore, in a life sentence, you're eligible for parole after a maximum 10 years. So from my understanding, Ali Adder is basically eligible for parole now, and if there was a special sentence or clause put into his sentencing, which I'm not aware of, it would be another 1.5 years. Especially since accused persons are eligible for statutory release after serving 2/3 of sentence imposed, unless accused person is deemed an unacceptable risk. So after 2/3 of your sentence, you are eligible for statutory, that's mandatory release. And I actually misstated before. Those accused sentenced to life imprisonment or to indeterminate sentences for offenses other than murder or high treason are eligible for parole after 7 years. Although Ali Adder was arrested in 2015, Canadian law means he's received 6 years credit for time served. Judging for the most extreme criteria for parole, which I don't think applies here, he would be eligible in 4 years. If he was subject to a special request for parole, he would be eligible in 1.5 years. In a typical parole scheme, he would be eligible for parole immediately upon the end of his trial. And although I cannot find an actual source saying so directly, it would seem that Ali Adder is now a Canadian citizen. Seems like a very high price to pay for a very little amount of justice. The Crown did seek the 50% clause, but what that would mean is that he would be eligible for parole in 1.5 years from now, roughly. And then I suppose he's a Canadian citizen. Maybe he can get his book deal. Out of all the places to point the finger, perhaps the RCMP are least to blame here. I can definitely see the argument that they should have known this would happen. I don't know, you decide. But they managed to get a guy who might have otherwise walked. Now the fact that the courts are going to slap this guy on the wrist and let him go, can they really help that? Do they really like that? I mean, who knows, right? People's faith in the RCMP used to be nearly flawless, but even the best of soldiers can be an embarrassment under bad leadership. And in fact, there is no sentence good enough. There is no reason to bring a person here and feed them here in our prison, never mind in our houses and our streets. This isn't a job for the domestic police, it's a job for the military. And look at the results. We're going to have a goddamn Somalian pirate walking free any day now. Oh, Canada. Maybe there are some things we can learn from other cultures after all.